Hey everyone, so before this episode begins, I have a quick disclaimer. So at the time of the recording, I did not realize that I had been pronouncing the name of this game incorrectly, funnily enough. So I'd be pronouncing it as DeathTiny, as I think it would read, to most normal people. But apparently the name is a silly pun on the word destiny, so it's pronounced DeathTiny, which I guess you can hear Iconoclast pronouncing correctly and I incorrectly throughout the interview. With that said, though, I think DeathTiny is a really silly title, and I think DeathTiny is actually better, so I don't think it's too much of a big deal that I mispronounce it. But there you go. Just wanted to give you all a heads up for future reference. The pronunciation of the game is DeathTiny. Hey everyone, welcome to the episode. With me today is Iconoclast to talk about some Ketsui DeathTiny. How's it going?
Fine.
So, the first thing I wanted to ask you about is just kind of to learn a little more about you because when I saw some of your tweets about getting some pretty impressive scores in DeathTiny, I kind of looked at your channel and some of your other tweets and I was really impressed to see your 3 billion DOJ score. So, I wanted to learn a little more about, I guess, maybe your background with shmups and playing cave games.
Well, I basically started with Raiden Fighters Aces on the 360. Then after that, I played Futari, then Espgaluda and Death Smiles, and so on and so on.
Nice. So you got your start on the 360 then.
Yep.
That's awesome. I think quite a few people that I've talked to got their start on the 360. Before Raiden Fighters Aces, had you played shmups casually at all, or not even that?
I think I played stuff like Gyrus on the NES when I was a kid, but that's about it. Or Tempest on the Saturn.
So how did you get started with DOJ? Was it the 360 port then?
I think I started playing it on MAME like a really long time ago, like maybe 5, 6 years. And I just played it casually every once in a while. I eventually went all it and play another game for a while, come back to it, play another game.
So when did you decide to go for the 2-all and then eventually, such a high score later on?
I think I first 2-all Black Label in 2013. Then after that, I picked up White Label and played that for a few years. Then I went back to Black Label earlier this year.
What made you decide to switch to white label in the first place?
I think back in 2014, 2015, it was like really popular on Nico, the live stream, Japanese live stream site.
Right.
So I was watching a bunch of people play that, and I thought it just looked fun, so I picked it up myself.
Did you catch at Stunfest this year Fufufu's run of white label?
Yep. And his previous one, yeah, they were amazing.
Oh yeah, the Wasai one? Is that what wasn't that it?
Yeah, Washoi.
Washoi. Sorry, my Japanese is horrible. Yeah, the Washoi one I was really impressed because he kind of brought it back at the end there, didn't he?
Yeah, he died in 2-2, which should like end anybody's run, but he still managed to clear it somehow.
So of the two, I'm assuming survival wise, white label is insanely harder than black label, or how large of a difference survival wise is it between those two?
Yeah, survival-wise, White Label is much more difficult, especially with Type B, because it has a bigger hitbox.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's I didn't know that either when I first started using it. Uh, I figured it out eventually.
So of the two ships, would you say Type B is the more difficult ship? Because I play AX or whatever. So
Yeah, especially in White Label, Type B is much worse. Well, maybe not much worse, but it's definitely worse.
right. It looks like last time I checked, I'm not sure. I might be a little bit outdated here. Did Fufufu have the highest record overall, or is that WY's
Uh,
AEX? I can't remember which one scored higher.
I'm not sure actually. I think maybe Fufufu has a higher score, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a little while for me as well.
They're pretty close.
So after you went to White Label, did you manage to all White Label?
At first, I was just playing just see how far I could get. I didn't think I would do all it, so
Yeah.
I took a long break from it. Then I went back and eventually I started to think I could do it, and I did it eventually.
Wow, how long did it take from the time you decided, okay, I'm gonna try and get the two all clear? How long did that take you?
I have no idea to be honest. Probably probably like 6 months or something maybe.
Wow, that's impressive. Because I've been working away at the two all of DDP about that long, and I feel like I'm getting close. But I'm wondering, have you full cleared DDP?
Nope. I've barely even played it.
Oh, I've always wondered which one's harder survival wise. I'd assume DOJ would be, but
Yeah, White Label DOJ is definitely harder.
yeah,
Black
that's true.
Label,
I should have clarified Black Label. Yeah,
Black Label, I don't know. It's probably pretty close.
yeah. Well, awesome. So after you got your clear and White Label, you decided to go back to Black Label to set a higher score, kind of thing.
I kept playing White Label for a while after I cleared it for the first time just to get a higher score. But earlier this year, I actually got I updated my White Label PB. Then after that, I switched to Black Label.
Nice. Is there a particular way you like to play White Label? Do you use shmup MAME or like the PS2 port or?
I use for a long time I used MAME Plus and the 360 port for White Label,
Oh
but
yeah,
yeah, I got sick of that, so I just switched to shmup MAME.
yeah. That's how I played White Label and Black Label when I was playing them a year or so ago. So I also was noticing on your YouTube channel that you have some other games that you play, especially it looks like it's hard to clarify what genre of game it would be, but like Ninja Gaiden style games or Devil May Cry style games.
People just call them like action games.
Yeah, action games. I just wanted to mention briefly because I'm a huge Ninja Gaiden fan as well, and I enjoyed watching some of your Master Ninja Clear videos on there.
Ninja Gaiden 2 might be like my favorite game, period. Like it has everything I'd want out of a video game. Like really deep combat, high difficulty, lots of enemies, really fast pace.
Yeah, it's up there for me too, definitely.
Yeah, just like everything about it, it's awesome.
Yeah, I did a Master Ninja Clear of that as well, and it was kind of like I just liked the game so much that I just kept clearing it until I ended up on Master Ninja, is kind of how I got to that point.
Yep. And the more you play it, the more stuff you learn, like even years and years later.
Yeah, definitely. That's an interesting game. As far as I've seen speedruns of it, but I'm wondering what your thoughts here. But whenever I watch people speedrun it, it doesn't feel like as cool as people just trying to rack up high scores and combos and stuff.
Yeah, I've watched a few Ninja Gaiden speedruns, but I'm not really a fan of it.
They're basically just doing a lot of flying swallow and rolling through the stages and
Running past all the
running
enemies
past
and
everyone. Yeah,
yeah, I don't like that.
yeah, me neither. Well, anyway, I just brought this up because I haven't spoken with a lot of Ninja Gaiden 2 big fans, and I've always wondered, what are your thoughts on the different versions as far as there's the 360 version, which I'm guessing you're going to say is the best, which I would agree with, but what do you think of Sigma?
Well, I'm not a fan of Sigma, but it has like a few good things about it.
Yeah,
Like Ninja Gaiden, the original game has like a few really bad bosses and a few really bad sections that they kind of fixed and removed in Sigma. But other than that, I'd take the 360 like 100 times over.
yeah. That's how I feel too, is the thing I like about like I like the 360 version way better. It's definitely superior, but there's things in Sigma that I did like. They removed a lot of the fetch questing, so you don't have to worry about that stuff as much. And then there's that worm boss in the
Yeah.
jungle. God, that boss sucks.
That has a new weapon too, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, the big Buster Sword. I can't remember what it's called, but the Emma's Fang.
Emma's Fang.
Emma's
Yeah.
Fang. Yeah, I love that weapon. I feel like Ninja Gaiden 2, especially in the 360, has one of the most epic moments of video gaming where you know the part where you're in hell and you're going up that staircase and there's
Yeah.
so many ninjas that the 360 can't even handle it.
Yeah, it's just like constant slowdown,
Yeah.
start to finish.
I've always wondered what the programmers were thinking at that point. They're like, screw it, this is gonna be, we don't care what happens, we're putting these ninjas in. That's kind of a shmup-like moment too, though, right? Where you can use the slowdown to gain advantage on your opponents and stuff.
Yeah, it's constant bullet hell, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite games. I always recommend it to my friends and stuff. What do you think about, do you think they'll ever make a PC release of it?
I really doubt that.
Oh, I guess what we can hope for though is maybe if a 360 emulator keeps coming along better.
Yeah, that'd be good. Or Xbox One backwards compatibility.
Yeah, that too, yeah. I wonder if that would address some of the slowdown and stuff. Well, anyway, I just wanted to bring that up just for my own pleasure anyway. So the topic at hand is Ketsui. And so the first thing I want to know is what's your history with just the original release of Ketsui or the various ports of Ketsui?
Well, Ketsui is actually one of the first arcade shmups that I cleared. Like, when it was first emulated, I played it for a while and just did a basic one-all.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I just didn't play it at all until earlier this year. In May, I think, I did an Emote 2-all.
Oh, nice.
And that was it until the port came out.
Were you doing that in anticipation of the port, or was it just a coincidence?
Yeah, they announced the port, so I figured it would be good to just practice for it.
Yeah. What do you think of doing an Ura? I think that's how you pronounce it. 2-all. Would that be something you'd be interested in going for?
Yeah, I'd like to, but it'd just be a lot of effort.
No kidding. Yeah, even the Emote 2-all. I've only gotten... So my history with Ketsui is I play a lot of Dodonpachi, and then after I get sick of getting my ass beaten in Dodonpachi, I'll just play Ketsui for 20 or 30 minutes and just point blank enemies in the face for a while and then go back to Dodonpachi. So I know the first 4 stages of Ketsui pretty well, but then from there on, I've never really invested too much time in the game, but I really enjoy it a lot. So I was really looking forward to the port.
Yeah, it's fun.
Compared to the other cave games you've played, how do you feel about Ketsui? Like, what do you think really sets it apart from them? And
Well, compared to like Dodonpachi, the ship mechanics are different. Like you always have to like get near enemies and lock onto them to kill them quickly. You can't just sit at the bottom of the screen. So you're basically forced to play aggressively, which is nice.
yeah, I love how the game rewards you for point blanking enemies because in Dodonpachi you are mostly punished by doing that by losing out on hits and stuff like that. So I really enjoy that aspect of Ketsui's scoring.
Yeah, it's a good different style.
When I was kind of talking to my friends about Ketsui trying to sell them on it, I was saying that the really cool thing about the game is that I feel like it's kind of just bullet hell in its purest form. You're just blowing shit up, trying to take out as many enemies as possible. The scoring system is a lot more lenient than I feel than something like the chaining in Dodonpachi.
It's easy to get like a basic handle on it.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of encourages you to play more aggressively, and by playing more aggressively, you end up probably being able to survive a little easier.
Yep.
Whereas in like, when I recommend Dodonpachi to my friends, I kind of in my back of my head, I'm like, there's a lot of memorization in this game and a lot of points where if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you're just going to get squished by something in the corner or you're going to get trapped. But I feel like Ketsui, at least to me, like I'm not an expert in the game, but you don't really run into that kind of thing as much, at least in the first loop.
Yeah, well, if you're like sitting all the way at the bottom of the screen, you can probably get overwhelmed eventually.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So it helps a lot to really memorize where the enemies are and stuff to know when you can go in.
Yeah, definitely. So what ship do you play in Ketsui?
Type A. It just looks like completely superior.
I actually play a lot of AL. So when I first started playing Ketsui, I actually did play Type B because the ship speed, I was like, oh, this kind of feels like AL. I'll use this one. And then after few months, I switched over to A and I never looked back. I was like, okay, this ship just is way better.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch people do replays of Type B too, though.
Yeah, there's a couple of good ones on the PS4.
Yeah, so when you got DeathTiny on the PS4, so they have the online leaderboards and things like that. Is there a way to watch replays from those scores?
Yeah, you can download the replay of like every score, I think, or
Yeah.
at least like a bunch of them. Just press the circle button, I think.
I was struggling with that so bad. Like, I was hitting all the buttons and trying to get it to work, but I felt like it was possible, but I couldn't quite figure how.
Yeah, you have to go to the materials menu, and then it shows all the replays.
That's where it is. Okay. Good to know, definitely. Yeah, because I got the game the day it came out, really soon after it came out, and played DeathTiny mode, and then I was looking through the replays to see, what people were doing exactly, and I just couldn't figure out how to get those replays to run, But anyway, getting back to your experience with Ketsui, so were you playing it on the 360?
I bought it on 360, but I never played it that much, like just a little bit.
Was that what you used for your one-all?
No, I did that on MAME.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering, when you played the 360 port, if you ever tried out X mode.
Yeah, I played it. I only played it a few times though, but it seemed pretty good for an arrange.
Yeah. It seemed like it's kind of hard to pin down exactly what makes, like, I played quite a bit of X mode, but even now I'm struggling to remember what sets it apart from the arcade mode necessarily. There are definitely some changes, but they're not clear in my mind.
From what I remember, it has like enemies that are like colored red or something, and you can kill them and they bullet cancel, and there's tons of chips everywhere and stuff.
Right. Yeah, that was it.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. Speaking of, I just wanted to mention, did you ever play the X mode in DOJ?
Yeah, I've played that a few times. I don't like it.
Yeah, that it's kind of, I almost feel like it's kind of intentionally ridiculous at times. How you have constant hyper and then you have the bullet canceling hyper and stuff.
Yeah, if you watch the top score and replay on it, it's just like he just sits in the corner the entire time with hyper cancel and everything.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a really well thought out mode, but I feel like it's one you can recommend to people just for fun, like who maybe don't play DOJ that much.
Yeah, maybe just like somebody who has no idea what they're doing, just screw around on it or something.
Yeah, exactly. The one other port of Ketsui that I'm wondering if you had any experiences with is the DS port, the Death Label. Did you ever have a chance to try that out?
Yeah, I played that a bit. I guess it's like a fun bite-sized Ketsui, I guess would be the best way to say it.
Fun sized is how I described it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a game.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool for like a handheld shmup release.
Yeah. I don't think it's a game that you'd want to like play real seriously, but it's fun.
Yeah, get the
It's fun
world
for what
record in
is.
it. Yeah, I thought that was really fun. I was actually playing that last night in RetroArch, giving it a try, just to see if the larger screen helped it out a little. It kind of did. It kind of looks insane on a larger screen, though.
Yeah, it'd be nice to use like an arcade stick or a different D-pad or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was using an arcade stick with it. It's funny when in the emulator, you can just zoom in on the top screen, so you remove the bottom screen, and then it crops it to like 4:3, and it feels so weird. It feels like someone just smashed your Ketsui down. It's like squished in. It's actually really silly looking. Before DeathTiny came out, what were your thoughts about it or hopes, or what were you kind of anticipating?
I actually wasn't looking forward to it at all. 'Cause when they first announced it, I was like, why would they do Ketsui again when it already has a good port?
Right, yeah.
Why not Dodonpachi or Daijo or Ibarra or Pro Gear or whatever?
Yeah, right. What do you think? Why do you think that is?
I have no idea actually. It's just a popular game, I guess.
That's very true, especially Dononpachi doesn't have a decent port at all, and then the DOJ ports, they all have their issues. So, and Esperade's coming out, or Esperade is coming out now, but even earlier this year we didn't know that, so I was like, oh, maybe they should bring that to console. But with all that said, I'm a big Ketsui fan, so I was pretty excited.
Yeah, it turned out very well, so I can't complain about it.
Yeah, definitely. Did you have any experience with the other M2 ports? Battle Grega, Dagon Feveron, stuff like that?
I haven't played Garaga, but I've played Feveron and Maho, and yeah, those are all great.
Yeah,
They're like the best ports.
definitely. And the Grega one is rock solid. Excellent port. Definitely a great way to play the game. When I first started looking into it, I had no clue who M2 were at all. And so I was just looking at this Battle Garega port on the PS4, and I came into it pretty skeptical. I was like, oh, this is probably going to be pretty whack. But then I saw it had save state, it had all these features, it had lag reduction. I was like, wow. They thought of everything.
Yep. M2 never misses anything.
No, it was excellent. Yeah, so I had pretty high hopes for the Ketsui port coming out, but I had the same thoughts as you. I was wondering, yeah, the 360 version seems pretty solid. I think there were some flaws with the 360 version, though.
Yeah, it runs a little faster, and I think it's missing some slowdown in the Earl loop, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think Bananamatic mentions something about it missing some slowdown. And just from my kind of noobish perspective, I remember thinking that the training options were really lackluster in the 360 port. You had basically just a level select, and then
Yeah, there's a level select and for like each stage, and then for an emote option and the Earl option.
yeah. I was comparing it to the PS2 port of DOJ where it had like a little more to it, where you could manipulate all these different variables or you could just fight the boss and stuff like that. So, if I remember correctly, they didn't really do too much with the sprite art in the 360 port, right? It's just pretty much the arcade. They didn't upscale it or do much to it.
Yeah, it's just the arcade game with a few filters you can put on.
Yeah, yeah. Still though, it's on the 360, one of the best consoles for shmups, so it's definitely still a really solid port.
Yeah, there's a lot of really, really high scores on there too. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I played a lot of Ketsui on the 360 version. Did you ever try out the PS3 version? From what I hear, there's really not much of a difference between the two.
no, I never.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see if I could find any differences between them, other than, one being region free, but the PS3 one's region free. So you weren't really looking too much forward to the Ketsui release this year. What were the things you were hoping to see the most?
Well, they announced the IKD mode. I was looking forward to that because that looked pretty good for a remix, I guess.
Yeah, I was learning a little more about that. I think Jamers was talking about it a little bit when I interviewed him, where wasn't it some kind of like special contest version that they had in 2007? Is that right?
I'm not sure of the year, but they had it for one of the festivals that Cave held back in the day.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, they only had it running for a couple days, I think.
That was definitely something I was looking forward to trying out. Is it just one loop, right? I played it a little bit, but I haven't really dug too deep into it.
Yeah, it's just one loop with like mostly second loop patterns, but
Yeah.
some of them are changed a bit, and then with a doom at the end.
Right. Pretty similar to DeathTiny in that regard, then. When you got DeathTiny and you fired up that mode, what were your initial thoughts about it? Or your initial right away impressions?
Well, first I watched it on streams for a while, and that's what made me actually want to buy the game in the first place. Because
Oh, nice.
it looked like a few different cave games together, like Espeluda with hypers from Diojo and enemy explosions that can cancel bullets like in Akai Katana. And those are all great games, so it made me want to play it.
Exactly. It feels, when I sat down, I kind of went into it completely blind. I'd seen a little bit of the promotional material for the game, but I hadn't caught too many streams about it. So when I sat down to play DeathTiny, I was a little bit confused at first because I tried to read the instructions, but they're in Japanese. So I was like, okay, what am I doing here? And then when it just started doing bullet cancels and pink chips and, or not pink chips, gold chips and blue chips. I was like, what is going on here? But I kind of got a handle for it, and then I started to really like it, and then I played it some more, and I started to really love it. So
Yeah. The mechanics can take a little while to figure out because it has a few different things going on, but it's
yeah,
really fun once you get it.
you had some forewarning, I guess, or some idea of what was going on even before you got the chance to sit down and play it.
Yeah, just from watching streams and stuff.
I actually misread some information about it on the forum. I thought it was my fault. I just misinterpreted what they were saying. I thought they were saying if you activate a level 3 before the first mid boss, that you unlock the aura loop at the end or something. Like there's a secret hidden loop or something. So I did a few runs trying to unlock that. I was like, what? Why isn't this working?
Yeah, it probably takes. I don't even know how you would even figure out that you have to hold the button down.
I'm assuming maybe the Japanese instructions maybe mention that. That would be my guess.
Yeah, it probably says it somewhere, but
Yeah, so I definitely want to dig into learning more about your thoughts on the mechanics of that mode because, yeah, I mean, it's a brand new mode and you're definitely putting up some really amazing scores in it. So I guess take us a little bit through your journey of discovering what you need to do and kind of getting into the mode.
well, I bought the game like a day or two after everyone else. So the first thing I did was just play through it by myself. Then after that, I downloaded a couple of replays from the leaderboards just to see how people were playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I just made a bunch of save states, like at the start of every stage and on bosses and stuff, and just try to figure out what I wanted to do.
Yeah, so were you kind of, because with all the different bullet cancelings and hypers you can activate and stuff, were you doing a lot of trial and errors of trying to figure out, okay, which gets you more points?
Yeah, I'm still doing that actually. Yeah, it's hard to figure out like just the best way to do everything because there's so many different possibilities.
Yeah, so maybe we should run down I guess the mechanics that set it apart from the arcade version. The first is that for the newer players out there, if you get hit and you have a hyper, it auto activates instead of you dying. It has kind of like an auto bomb type feature there,
Yeah.
which I thought was really nice. Obviously, it affects your score greatly, but for people just trying out the mode, I feel like I don't know, I really liked it. I feel like you could recommend it to someone kind of getting into it and they could kind of learn Ketsui, but
Yeah, it gives them like training wheels.
exactly, yeah, that's a good way to say it. Yeah, they are like training wheels. And then you take them off in arcade mode and you're like, why am I dying so much? So there's the hyper, and then there's 3 levels to the hyper, right?
Yep. Well, it can go up to like level whatever. You can just keep going because you can suicide to keep your hyper level going.
Oh, really?
But yeah, the item value maxes out at level 3.
Right, that's what I was thinking of. So I had no idea about the meta strategy of getting points. Here's what I figured out so far, and you can kind of educate me on what else you actually need to do. So what I started doing was some pretty basic things where I would just build up level 3 hyper, activate death die mode, and then just try and cancel a bunch of enemy bullets and kill a bunch of enemies, and then rinse and repeat.
Yeah, that's the basic gist of it, really. Like, just figure, just figuring out like where you want to build up your hyper and then where you want to like spend it all.
Right. So is there some strategic suicide stuff you're doing? Because you do get a crap load of extends in this game.
Yeah, you get a bunch of lives, but they're not really worth anything at the end of the game. So
Yeah.
what they want you to do is just like suicide all of them.
I was wondering what you did with them. I'm like, okay, is this just this super noob-friendly feature they're throwing in? I felt like, yeah, because I remember I did a run kind of experimenting where I was like, okay, this run I'm going to save up all my lives and see if I cash them out at the end, and no, you don't.
Yeah, suicide is really important for score because when you die, it refills your hypermeter and it can keep your chain going. So you can build up like really big chains throughout a stage.
Wow. So give us kind of the rough draft for the early stages. Are you suiciding in the early stages at all, or is it more later stage type stuff that you're doing the suicides?
Stage 1 and 2, I don't suicide. I
Okay.
did see somebody suicide in stage 2 though, which was interesting. But then in stage 3, I suicide once. You can suicide twice there, but it's already a little dangerous.
Yeah, no kidding.
Then in stage 4, I suicide again, and preferably only once, but sometimes most of the time, I usually die again. And then I suicide the rest of my lives in stage 5.
Oh, okay.
Stage 5 is,
You're going into Doom with one life? Or at what point are you suiciding them?
I try to keep at least 2 lives left for the end, because
Okay.
you never want to be on your very last life, because at that point, your stage counter, it won't go past 500, which is like nothing. And you can't enter death die mode, which so your score is
Oh,
just
that's
like
right.
complete.
That's
Yeah,
right. I
your
forgot
score is
about
just
that.
like completely ruined at that point.
So speaking of death die mode, I'm assuming you're basically in death die mode at all times.
Yeah, you.
Is there times where you get out of it strategically or anything like that?
Yeah, the only time that you don't want to be in death die mode is on Doom's final attack,
Oh,
because
okay.
when you're not in death die mode, your invincibility shield from Hyperin, it lasts a lot longer, like from when you bomb in the arcade game.
Yeah.
So you can use that to safely deal with all of his stuff.
Nice. And is there any kind of like you said there's no end of life bonus. Is there any sort of bonus for clearing him in death die mode that's even worth it or no? Like the final pattern or no?
Well, Doom himself, he's worth a lot of points to kill, so
Mhm.
you can milk the final pattern, I guess, but
Oh,
that's
okay.
like that's super dangerous.
No kidding.
I would not recommend it.
So, what has been the timeline of your scores? Because it seems to me like it's just been like super fast. Every other day you're getting increasingly higher scores.
Well, the first couple days I was playing, I was just practicing. I never did any credits, so I'd already built up all my strategies by the time I started playing. So from there, I got like 600 million, I think I started with, and then I just got 600 something, 610. Then the next day, I got like 630, then 640, 660, and now I'm at. Well, earlier today, I just got 740. I don't know if I'll be getting too much higher than that.
Yeah, I saw that. And it's funny because when I was preparing to talk to you yesterday, you were at like 720, so you just keep climbing. Okay, so with your first run that you were kind of just the 600 million round and then you started increasing, what were the areas that were increasing that were like giving you the most increases? Like what were you focusing on?
Well, when I first started, it was like hard to figure out a good strategy for stage 4. So, because there's like a ton of enemies and right before the mid boss,
Mm.
like leading up to him. So it's hard to figure out exactly what you want to do at that point. And then just before the boss as well, that's another hard section to figure out like the really best way to score. So
Mm-hmm.
as time goes on, I just keep getting better strategies for it.
So you mentioned earlier that you're strategically suiciding to keep your chain going. Is it to the point where you're basically full chaining all these stages by strategically suiciding, or is it that far along?
I don't like the longest chain is in stage 5, but that's only like maybe a third of the stage.
Okay.
So most of the time, it's just to extend the chain by another maybe 30 seconds or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering because it's a different style of chaining than in like Donanpachi, right? Because there's a strict timer on it, other than killing your own ship.
Yeah, you can. The hyper, it's like a kind of like maybe Daifukatsu, I guess.
Yeah.
You hyper and then a timer comes down on it. And you want to hyper again, like right before it ends to maximize how long it lasts. And that's about it.
Right. So the part of stage four, the beginning of stage four, is that what's the juiciest places to suicide and get all the points?
Well, the highest value suicides are definitely in stage 5, like on
Okay.
the descent leading into
Oh
wherever the place
yeah,
is.
yeah,
Yeah, there's tons of enemies right before, and all the way through it. So that's where I suicide like 3 times, I think.
yeah. It's just yeah. I need to check out some replays. But I could just imagine it's a screen full of golden cubes flying everywhere.
Yeah, that's a really high value place.
Can you explain a little bit the difference between the blue cubes and the gold cubes?
Well, the blue cubes they just refill your hypermeter, and the
Hmm.
gold cubes are all just score on items.
Right, and as I was seeing, like depending on your level of hyper, so if you activate level 3, and then you activate Death Die mode, the cubes get larger too, the gold ones, right? They're not the same
Yeah,
size as if you have a lower level hyper.
yeah, they get a little bigger every time until level 3.
Is there ever any reason to not use level 3 hypers other than if you get hit accidentally?
Well, like sometimes it might be better to just use like a level 1 hyper and then build your meter back up for a level 3 hyper later on in the stage.
Okay.
Like things like that.
Yeah. Is proximity a factor at all? I didn't think it was, but I just wanted to double check with you.
It's mainly for like speed killing,
Okay.
but I think it might affect how quickly you get blue cubes.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'm still not even completely sure how that works, honestly.
Yeah, it's kind of a mystery because I was messing around with that too, trying to figure, okay, does it reward you like in the arcade mode to proximity kill enemies or does it not? It's hard to tell.
Yeah, I'm still not even sure. Like sometimes I lock onto enemies really quickly and I get blue cubes from 'em. Other times I do the exact same thing and I get nothing. So
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I'm not a really well-versed Ketsui player, but I do know there's a technique called empty locking. Do you use that at all in DeathTiny?
Nope.
Okay.
I think maybe something like it could be helpful because if you kill a tank that drops a cube and then you kill an enemy like right after with an empty lock, like a larger enemy, he might drop cubes. But
Oh, okay.
I don't need that.
Yeah, you're not worried about it. When you were watching these replays early on, these streams of people playing Death Tiny, what were their scores? Were they super plays or were they people just trying out the game and trying to figure out what the hell was going on?
I think I was watching maybe Bananamatic playing and Icarus and then the Hey Arcade stream.
Oh, okay.
So most of the scores there weren't very high, but I could see like how the game was being played and it looked fun. So
That's awesome. Have there been any Japanese players that you're aware of that have been like really going to town on this mode?
yeah, there's one player right now who's like the number one ranked on PSN. His name's Sleepy Bamani, I think.
Mhm.
He has like 750 million.
Oh, so he made it that high.
Yeah. He's been ahead of me for like 10 days now or something. Like I'm always checking his replay and seeing what I can learn from him.
That's awesome. Do you know, is he a known player at all, or is he just this mysterious force destroying Death Tiny?
Yeah, I have no idea who he is. Like I had a few guesses when he first appeared, but I'm not sure.
I remember early on, because I got the game really early, so my score was inflated in that there weren't many entries when I got mine in. And I remember the person ahead of me was named Gorega Dad, and I was like, is this guy really Japanese? I'm not thinking he's a Japanese guy.
Yeah, that's a Bananamatic, I think.
Well, there you go. I was like, that sounds like a Western name to me. That's funny. I didn't know that was Bananamatic. Actually, in my early streams, he tuned in and was like helping me figure out what the hell was going on because, like I said, I was really misinformed and trying all this stuff that wasn't working, and he helped me figure out how to do the death die mode and stuff like that. So, do you have any ability to read Japanese at all?
I only know like a very little bit, like basically child level or monkey.
Oh, nice. I'm worse than that. I'm like blind person level. So when I first fired up the game and was trying to get the settings going and stuff, I was actually taking pictures of the screen and then sending them to Plasmo, being like, help, what does this say? So I was wondering if you did, were there any like insights in the instructions or in the menus that would help you figure out what the hell was going on in this mode? I didn't know they did have some kind of like explanation, but I couldn't figure out what it was talking about.
Yeah, I didn't learn anything.
And what about the options? I know there's lag reduction, which is default on, I believe. And I tested it, and the input lag is the same as the 360 version. So they're the same, which is good. So I was glad about that. That was my biggest concern. I was hoping it wasn't like really laggy and stuff. I don't know why, but everything on the PS4 in my mind is laggy, even if it isn't. Like I think of the PS4 as a laggy console, so whenever something's announced to PS4, I'm like, ooh, is it gonna be laggy?
Yeah, there's lots of games on there with really, really high input lag.
Yeah, that I think that's it. I think my first impressions of the PS4 were like Street Fighter 5 and then the original release of Tekken 7, which was really laggy, and everything on the PS4 is just freaking laggy. I'm like, this console. how can you put a shmup on this damn console? But M2 pulled it off, so I'm really happy about that. Getting back to DeathTiny mode, so is your goal 750 million, or do you think it's about tapped out around there, or what are your thoughts on that?
I don't really have a goal necessarily. I'm just playing to just see how far I can go.
Right. I was wondering, are you trying to take out Sleepy? Sorry, what was his name? Sleepy something.
Sleepy Bomani, I think.
Sleepy Bomani.
I was able to pass him once, but he beat me the next day, and he's been ahead ever since.
I always love back and forth stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was gonna go back and forth with Greg, Dad, but then his score kept getting massive. I was like, who is this dude? But now it's Banana Mac. It makes sense.
Yeah. There's another player right now, actually. His name's Asi. He's working on 800 million, I think, but that's gonna be really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
Even right now, if I thought of like every risk I could take and did like a perfectly executed run, I don't even know if I could get 800.
Wow.
So that would be, well, he probably has better strategies than me, but still, that's going to be really hard.
Yeah, so you're thinking to get that high, he's got to come up with some kind of innovation or some kind of new way of getting points.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts of what something like that could be? Like, just theoretically, where these extra points might be able to come from?
Well, there's like always more you can do with just letting enemies sit on screen for a little while and shoot more bullets, and cancel all those to score items, but that gets risky.
Yeah.
Then there's more big score boosts you can get from fully milking every boss and destroying all their parts, but that gets really risky too.
Right. Is it kind of a situation where you're milking, but really the payoff is not that high? Like, it's not enough to really put you over?
Yeah, for the most part, on most of the bosses, you only get like an extra maybe 10 or 15 million if you like fully milk them as much as you can. And that's a lot of risk taking to do, so
Yeah.
I don't do too much of it. For the stage 3 boss especially, and the stage 4 boss.
Sure.
But the other ones I do some decent milking on.
Yeah, definitely. What is your favorite part of DeathTiny mode right now? Like, what is your favorite thing about it?
Probably just the basic mechanics, I'd say. Like, just building up your hypermeter and then cashing it all in. Like, that's always going to be fun to me in, like, every cave game.
There is something really satisfying about that. Yeah, I was playing DeathTiny mode a lot, and then I was like, oh, I better play the arcade version a little bit here and there, but I just was too addicted to DeathTiny. I kept going back. I was like, arcade version can wait.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
The thing I was most looking forward to was the IKD mode, but I haven't even played anything but DeathTiny.
So, did M2 develop the mode themselves?
I think they did, but I read in an article that Ikeda was overseeing it, so...
Oh, that's really cool. That would maybe explain the lack of suicide bullets, right? In the Aura mode? Or whatever you got, Death Die mode?
Yeah, it would explain why it's so good, too.
Yeah, exactly. Because I remember Banatic Manic was telling me about that, because I was saying, oh, is it just like Aura mode? He said, yeah, but there's no suicide bullets. Well, that's awesome. So, when you're finished with playing DeathTiny mode, are you going to maybe go on to the other arranged version?
The IKD mode?
Yeah, IKD mode.
Yeah, I'd like to play that. Well, I don't know if I'd get like a really serious score in it, but I definitely want to play it.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to tackle these arranged modes and stuff because, I mean, they're newer and fresher, there's not as much It's kind of like a little bit of, you can be a little more creative and kind of think of strategies, whereas, like arcade mode has been really examined and played so much that.
Yeah, like everything's already figured out with arcade Ketsui.
Exactly. The fun part for me with playing a DeathTiny mode, even though I wasn't expecting to get a really high score or anything, I was just trying to figure out little mini strategies to basically cash in on as many points as I could that might have been somewhat creative.
Yeah, that's the fun of the new mode. Like just trying to figure everything out.
Do you see this mode being played for a long time in the future, or what do you think about that? Its longevity.
There's probably going to be like a couple people who really just play it nonstop, but I don't know if it'll be like a super popular game or anything.
Yeah. It feels like to me a lot of the arranged versions, even if they're pretty awesome, tend not to get too much attention in the long run. They kind of have their day in the sun and then a few people still play them kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know though. I'm hoping DeathTiny mode catches on.
Yeah, I think it's really good, so it'd be nice to see people playing it for a long time.
I feel like it justifies the game for sure. There's so many things about this port that are excellent. The input lag's good. The graphics look amazing. They look beautiful compared to even the 360 version. Is that just my eyes, or do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think it looks a little smoother, because I remember the 360 version looking like really pixelated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember I was playing this because the PS4 forced me to play on a, what do you call it? When you stream PS4, it won't let you do tate because it can't figure out how to rotate. So I had to play on a Yoko or a horizontal monitor. So I got out my Asus gaming monitor and I was like, wow, this game looks really good. So did you have a chance to, did you care much about like some of the extra things like the arranged soundtracks and stuff like that?
Well, the Daisuke Matsumoto soundtrack, that one didn't really do much for me, but I'm glad they included the M2 soundtrack. I mean, the Base Escape soundtrack from the 5PB port.
Yeah, that one's excellent.
Yeah, that one's my favorite one.
Yeah, the 360 soundtrack is killer. That's one of my favorites. So yeah, that was going to be a hard one to top. But the one that kind of surprised me as being really good, at least to me, was the, what is it, like Vertical or Sky? Oh my god, I need to look it up. The blue one, I'm trying to remember what that's called. Vertical or Sky soundtrack. That one's actually pretty solid too.
The Vert soundtrack?
Vert soundtrack, yes. The Vert soundtrack. That one was pretty cool.
Yeah, that one's from the 360 Daifukatsu Black Label Ketsui mode.
Oh, so okay. Okay.
Yeah, they brought that one over too.
Nice. Yeah, so what's the one you mentioned? Yeah, I was agreeing. It was okay, but it wasn't really doing it for me either.
Yeah, the Daisuke Matsumoto one. Yeah, that one's like completely electronic, I think, and it doesn't really fit the game, in my opinion.
Felt like, especially, I'm trying to remember the name of the stage. It's like the death line or the front. What's the name of that fourth stage? Sorry, I always forget. But the fourth stage is one of my favorite songs on the OST, and I felt like, yeah, on that arranged soundtrack, it wasn't hitting hard enough. It wasn't rocking hard enough.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like Ketsui needs to be rocking.
Yeah, it needs to have a headbanging soundtrack for long hairs.
Yeah, exactly. It's an interesting soundtrack because there's the tracks like stage 4 where it's just completely rocking, and then there's stage 2 where it's kind of like dreamy and pleasant. It's an interesting soundtrack. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think it's Namiki's best soundtrack, probably.
Yeah, I'd definitely rank it up there with some of my favorites. there is a super easy mode included in the game.
Right.
I actually never played it. I should have.
Yeah.
Did you play it?
I haven't played it, but I saw a picture of like a high level Ketsui player on Twitter. He had like 60 lives by the end of it or something.
Anyway, I bring that up because I think it's funny that they call it super easy, because I always wonder if this is like a localization issue or if it's just these developers being kind of tongue in cheek. But I'm trying to think of, okay, like if you're recommending shmups to your friend who doesn't play shmups and probably would get whooped in arcade mode, you're like, oh, play super easy mode, dude. He's like, are you trying to insult me here? So I always wondered why maybe someone in the localization team was like, maybe we should call it something else, like arrange E or something a little more covert than super easy mode.
Yeah, novice isn't as emasculating, I guess.
Right. Or like in, you know how in Gunbird it's like baby mode and stuff like that.
Monkey mode.
Monkey mode. I feel like baby should be less than monkey. I feel like monkeys can do better in video games than babies. So,
Yes, definitely.
yeah, so anyway, I brought that up because of the auto bombing mechanic in DeathTiny mode, or the sort of auto bombing mechanic, I feel like it's actually a great way for people to get a false sense of confidence and like feel good about themselves. Because I felt that way. Like I'm not that great at Ketsui. And then I cleared DeathTiny. And I got my ego got all hot, and then I played arcade mode, and I forgot that I'm not as good as I thought I was, because that auto bomb was like helping me out so much. So
Yeah,
DeathTiny is secretly the mode you want to recommend to people who really aren't that into shmups or kind of looking into getting into the game, because it doesn't patronize you, but it definitely helps you out more than arcade mode.
yeah, that's usually how they do arcade modes. Like they make it easy enough for like a complete beginner to go on with it, but then hopefully it'll be interesting for people who want to get like high scores.
Yeah, I think they did a great balance there, because if you're going for a score, that losing your hyper is like huge problem. So I'm assuming, right?
Yeah. Dude, it's actually not that punishing.
Oh, is
for
it?
when you make a stick. Yeah, like if they balanced it for the arcades, it'd probably be a lot more.
Brutal.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a weird feeling playing that mode and you're getting all these extends. You're like, am I really freaking good at this game, or what's going on here?
yeah, they definitely try to make it so you could, like, even a beginner could eventually clear the game
Yeah.
without like really dedicating tons of time to it.
It's actually a really clever way of doing it, because when you think about the rank in something like Garega, it gives you extends, but then it brings up the difficulty for beginners if they're just hoarding a bunch of extends. But this way is an interesting way to do it, where serious players have to suicide those lives away to get the hyper bonuses and stuff. But if you're just trying to hoard lives, the game really isn't punishing you for doing that if you're like a newer player.
Yeah, like a beginner can clear it, and like a serious player can take a bunch of risks for high scores. Yeah, it's a good balance.
Yeah, I definitely fully recommend the mode. And at first, I was a little arrogant when I cleared it. What's wrong with this mode? Why is it so easy? I didn't get it. But then I played it a few more times. I was like, oh, wait a minute here. I'm missing something. So, yeah, really clever game design, I think. Is there anything you'd want to see different in DeathTiny mode? We're talking about what's great about it. Are there some flaws in the mode that bother you, or things you want to see that you wished were different?
Well, it would be nice if they made. Oh, we didn't. I didn't mention this before, but like when you collect a power up, it fills up your hypermeter.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so that can be really useful for scoring. So it would be nice if they made the hitbox on that like a little smaller, so it doesn't. So you don't have to like dodge the power up.
Right.
So like more than the enemy bullets.
So I'm thinking it's like when you're trying to chain in Donanpachi in the second stage and the damn power-up breaks your chains. Are there times in DeathTiny where you're trying to leave them on screen strategically?
Yes, like pretty much every time they come up almost. And it gets it's especially annoying after stage 5, because then there's like tons of bullets coming at you. You don't have space to really get away from the power ups. So
Yeah.
if it moves in a bad way, it can really screw you up.
I'm assuming it, yeah, I've played it too. It's just like random power-up movement like you would get in arcade mode.
Yep.
What do you think about if they changed it to be like the hypers in DOJ where they just fall downward? Do you think that would be better?
Nah, I don't think so because like it's nice being able to just activate it whenever you want without having to go up and collect an item.
Have a bunch of hypers following you around. I'm just trying to imagine that. That'd be funny.
Well, that's what it's like in the Daifukatsu Arrange mode, I think, or maybe not the Ketsui Arrange. I don't remember.
Uh huh. Yeah, I remember one of them had a hilarious amount of hypers following the ship around. Yeah, another thing that I guess I should have mentioned too is that isn't there bomb items and you collect those and those give you a crap load of hyper as well? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, it's the same as the power up. They give you like 30%
Oh,
hyper meter or
okay.
something like that. Yeah, I think they're both the same.
Oh, okay. Oh, another thing too is me and Banana Manic were talking about Ketsui before the release. Like I was asking him, "Oh, do you like Ketsui and stuff like that?" And one thing he said that really bothered him about the original release is that there's that part where the helicopters to get the extend are kind of finicky, and sometimes they'll leave and you won't be able to get the extend.
That's still happened to
Still
me.
happens? Oh, okay. That never happened to me, so I thought maybe they fixed it or something.
Yeah, that only happened to me once so far though, so it's
Okay.
not that common.
Yeah.
There's a freezing bug too that happens in the original arcade game. Like as soon as Doom appears, it can freeze. That happens in DeathTiny mode as well.
Oh, really? So what happens when this bug activates? Like what are the consequences exactly?
The game just freezes.
Like completely?
Yep.
Soft locks?
Yep.
Holy crap.
Like Ketsui, it freezes, but like the game itself, it's still running, so you can still open menus and restart and stuff.
I wonder if they must have known about that, obviously. I wonder if they left it in just because they're like, that's Ketsui, we're leaving it in, or if they didn't feel like trying to change it.
Yeah, that level of accuracy is not necessary.
Yeah. Maybe to give them the benefit of the doubt, they're afraid if they went in and changed that, they'd be messing up some other things somewhere or something.
Possible.
That's the benefit of the doubt there, but well, any other thoughts on other changes you would want to have seen other than the power-ups being annoying?
Well, maybe just like if it were more balanced as an arcade game, just make it more punishing. That'd be about the only thing I'd change. Because other than that, the game's awesome.
In the original arcade mode?
No, I mean Destiny mode.
Okay. Yeah, do you feel like it's a little too easy? Or do you mean punishing as in punishing scoring mistakes?
Yeah, it's not that it's too easy because it can get like really hard, but if you
Mhm.
make a mistake, it might not cost you that much. So it'd be maybe more interesting if they made that just your mistakes cost more.
Yeah, what do you think of some kind of like maximum style mechanic? You know, in Donpachi where you get the maximum bomb bonus? Like something like that. Would you like to see that kind of change or more like chaining? If you die, your chain explodes or something. I don't know exactly what they could do.
Maybe just like auto bombing, just maybe cost more of your meter or something. I don't
Oh,
know.
okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I was actually surprised with the auto bomb activation. I thought maybe there it would be more punishing other than just activating level one.
Yeah, it just takes like the same 30%, I think. So
Yeah, it's just the same as activating level one.
it could drain like your entire meter or something.
Yeah, because there were some times when I was streaming and I would get hit by a stray bullet and I'd try to play it off like I activated hyper. I was like, I'm hypering right now. So besides you and Banana Matic playing this game and Sleepy, there's also another Japanese. It sounded like a Japanese DeathTiny tournament put on by M2 themselves. Not
Yeah,
tournament, but scoring competition.
yeah. When the game first came out, M2 ran a score contest for the game for a week, where the top 5 players on PS4 would get prizes, and top 5 players on at the Hey Arcade would get prizes, and the number one player on each one would get a model of the one of the Ketsui ships, and then
Oh, that's cool.
everybody else gets posters.
Oh, I remember seeing that tweet with the toy planes from M2, and I was like, what is this about? So that's what it was about. Those were really cool looking models.
Yeah, they're really expensive too. I was surprised. They're like $130 or something.
Really? So for the PS4 players, could Westerners have gotten in there, or is there no way?
Well, I don't know if they expected Westerners to get in there, but yeah, I had the highest score on PS4, so they sent me the. Well, they just shipped the model out to me the other day, so I should be getting that.
Wow. That's a really cool ending to the story. So you ended up winning one of the models.
Yep. I got the Type B one because the whoever got the highest score at Hay, which was a guy named Asi, he's like a really high level player.
Mm-hmm.
He chose the Type A ship, so they just sent me the Type B.
Can you blame him though? Such a swag ship.
I don't even mind getting the Type B ship. I think it looks cooler.
The model looked amazing.
Yeah, naturally I'd want Type A instead though, because that's the one I actually play.
Yeah. Well, do you feel like maybe you're obligated now to do some Type B runs to for the fans?
I might try it sometime actually. There's another player with almost 700 million with Type B.
One thing I guess I could mention about just Ketsui as a game, all the range versions, is I think it's actually really cool how there's just two ships, and that's it. I'm not saying every game should be like that, but I do like that about Ketsui, where Donpachi, you got A, B, C, and then you got AL, A shot, you know what I mean? But there's all these different ships and subtypes. The fun part about Ketsui is there's just two ships, you pick the ship, and then there you go.
Yep, it's more focused.
Right, exactly. Which is nice when you're making score tables for the game, because there's just two ships instead of a million.
It's nice for the developers too, since they don't have to worry too much about balancing everything.
Yeah, I like playing both ships. I think, actually, next year I'm planning to play a lot more Ketsui, DeathTiny, and Arcade, and I'll start with focusing on Type A ship, but I think maybe after a bit I'll do some Type B runs too.
Type B is still pretty fun, like the fast movement speed.
Uh-huh. It feels really similar to AL's movement speed, other than when you're actually locking on, but just the base movement speed when you're shooting.
Yeah, but Type A still has the advantage in like every way.
Yeah, definitely. That ship was made for Ketsui, it feels like. The wider shot, the faster lock-on speeds and stuff, just everything about it feels like it belongs in Ketsui.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Type CL and Donpachi, and I feel like the ships play pretty similarly to each other as far as their speeds and their laser speeds and stuff. If you ever play Donpachi,
I don't think I've ever used CL, but I've played Donpachi a bit, but I've never taken it too seriously.
What happened is I'd play a bunch of AL, and then I'd switch over to Type A and Ketsui, and all of a sudden the ship feels like it's got lead weights on the back of it. But from CL to Type A, it feels like really similar.
Yeah, like the slow movement speeds can take some time to get used to, like especially when I started playing Diojo with Type B.
Yeah, I definitely had that problem because I remember when I was going for my 1-all in Black Label, this was like a year or so ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I was having trouble with stage 5, the part with like the honeycomb and the bees and stuff. I had problems with that section, so my solution was, B has a wide shot, so maybe if I just play B and just wide shot everything, that would make it easier. And then I tried playing B, and I just kept running into bullets because I wasn't used to the ship speed at all.
Like even in Diojo, I don't think Type B's wide shot is especially useful. Like maybe for pure survival, but
yeah, it was a good lesson for me to learn. The lesson is switching your ship doesn't necessarily solve all your problems.
Definitely. It just makes new problem.
So that is really awesome that you ended up getting the high score and getting the prize. So what was the timetable for, you said how long before they closed the contest?
They ran it for a week, so it was pretty short, yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. And you said you didn't get it on day of release, right?
Yeah, I got I think a day later or maybe two. So I played a little catch up, but I watched some replays and learned from them, so plus I had more time to play.
What was your score that got you the win?
I ended with 662 million, which was maybe 23 million above the next highest guy on PS4. The guy below me is Rokukichi, and I was going back and forth with him throughout the whole contest pretty much, so that was fun.
I bet.
Yeah.
So give us a snapshot of like what it was like going back and forth with the guy. Were you like waking up in the middle of the night like, oh shit, did he beat my score?
Well, I basically played as much as I possibly could while the contest was on, so I would just like do some save state practice, try to figure out whatever I could, and then just play a bunch of credits, get whatever high score I could, and then at the end of the day, I'd have like a higher score than him. Then I'd wake up and he'd have a higher score than me, and then I'd just do the same thing.
Were you doing a lot of spying on his scores? Be like, okay, what is he doing? What do I need to keep my eye out here? As far as when he would catch up with you?
The first couple of days when I was playing, I watched some replays, but after that, I saw a tweet by Asi, and he was saying that he didn't want to watch any more replays until the contest was over. So I figured I'd do the same thing. So after
Oh,
that,
okay.
yeah, after that, I just stopped downloading replays, but I was watching the scores just to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense. Were you ever considering doing some score sniping? Is that even possible? I guess play offline and then run
Yeah.
online.
When I first got the game, I was thinking maybe I would just like I would either maybe play offline the entire time, or maybe just spend like 4 days or something just practicing and then score on the last day or two. But then I saw like everybody keeps putting up new scores every day, so I figured I should just do the same.
Yeah, I feel like Art of War, maybe score sniping is a good strategy, but as far as like sportsmanship, it seems a little shady to score snipe too much, but
Yeah, definitely. I didn't want to look like a jerk doing that.
yeah, it kind of comes across that way a little bit, but because the fun of the whole competition is the back and forth anyway. So when you were just grinding these runs, what was your daily schedule? Was it just Ketsui day and night?
Pretty much just wake up, Ketsui, eat, Ketsui, eat, Ketsui, and go to bed.
That's crazy. I'm assuming since you had such a high score in DOJ, you probably have experienced this before, right? Just like insane shmup grind fests.
I'm actually not sure I ever played anything as much as I played Ketsui.
Oh, okay.
Because even when I was playing Dioja, I never play more than like maybe like at the max maybe 5 or 6 hours a day.
Uh-huh.
So Ketsui, I definitely played more than that.
That explains because I was following your tweets because I actually remember your first tweet saying like you got 600 something million. Am I playing this game right or something? I was like, yeah, you're definitely doing something right because.
Actually, I was just seeing if I was doing the contest right.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
I was like, damn, yeah, you're definitely doing something right because you're destroying my score. So.
I wasn't sure if I'd even be able to enter it because I'm overseas from M2.
Yeah.
But then they replied, so I figured it was fine.
They seem like a cool company. I mean, I don't know, but they seem like they'd be chill with that kind of thing. But
Yeah, they've been real nice to me.
I could see maybe, some other company being like upset about it or something. Region lock this jerk. Get him out of here. Yeah, that's really cool. That's really awesome. I'm glad for the Westerners that you brought home the Ketsui ship.
Well, I tried as hard as I could. I couldn't try any harder.
That's really awesome. So I'm assuming your previous experience with Ketsui was a real asset too.
Yeah, definitely. Learning the game in May, that definitely helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I was able to just like apply basic Ketsui knowledge and then just like work my way around that.
Yeah, because I pretty much a lot of the boss patterns and stuff are like almost exactly the same, right? Like even I recognized that. I was like, oh, this is like the same boss patterns that I've been encountering too. So.
Even at first, I was doing like the same score and patterns.
Oh, were you? Like point blanking stuff and.
Yeah, point blank enemies here, and
does that still matter? Like if you shot an enemy and then use that to lock on to other enemies, does that matter at all in DeathTiny?
see, I think when you kill an enemy that drops the blue cube, like if it's still on screen when you kill a larger enemy, he'll drop blue cubes too. So in that sense, it can help.
Yeah, yeah. I felt like there was something going on there, but I felt like the whole time I'm playing DeathTiny, it's like, oh yeah, I'm kind of getting an idea for what the scoring strategies might be, but they weren't really sharp in my mind of what I should do.
Yeah, I'm still not even completely sure how everything works. So,
do you think it's possible that, let's say we look back on this recording 6 months from now, and the score is like, I don't even know high, like 1 billion or something, like crazy high that you would have never expected? Do you feel like that's even possible, or do you feel like you're kind of getting near the cap?
I can see scores going like 800 million, maybe a little over that, but I really doubt it will go too much further.
Oh, okay.
But maybe someday somebody will have like some crazy strategies nobody would ever think of
Yeah.
and counter-stop the game or something.
Exactly, because I'm a little bit newer to the shmup community, so it's kind of exciting for me to see a newer arranged mode release that's actually pretty cool and interesting. Because I'm kind of curious to follow how it goes to see if we'll think, oh, 800 million's near the top, and then some dumb strategy or some dumb glitch is discovered, and all of a sudden it's like blown open. I don't know.
Yeah, every day when the competition was going on, like everybody would have like their maximum score, and then they'd figure out new things, and it'll be a little higher and a little higher and a little higher. So maybe it'll keep going, but I don't think it'll go too much further.
So you mentioned that parallel to the PS4 release, there was, or the PS4 competition, there was the arcade competition. So were they playing that on PS4s in arcade cabinets, or is there an arcade release of this game?
I think they just had a PS4 and an arcade setup.
Right.
Yeah, and people would go there, and the whoever top five scores would get the stuff.
Yeah. So I've had a recent bit of education about Japanese arcades because in my mind, for years, I imagined Japanese arcades as being like CRTs, PCBs, like old school stuff. But it sounds like most Japanese arcades don't even use CRTs and run on like LCDs and stuff.
Yeah, I think the PS4 setups they'd have would definitely be LCD or some type of setup like that.
Yeah. Only like insane wackos like me play on CRTs with their PS4. Because you got to have some serious equipment to pull that off.
I didn't even know you could hook a PS4 up to a CRT.
You can. It's a bitch. So you need a. So first you have to do is you have to set your PS4 to 480p manually. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And then you need these special HD Fury gamer cables, which are discontinued, that convert HDMI to VGA without lag. And then you got to plug that into an Extron Emosha 2, which will take the 480p and turn it to 240p. And then you can play your PS4 on a CRT.
That's a lot of hassle.
It is a lot of hassle. Yeah. I have this, I'm actually sitting next to it right now in my recording room, but I have this massive Sony Trinitron that I have flipped sideways, so any excuse to connect a shmup to it, I do that, so. What is your setup? Speaking of setups, what do you play on?
I just play my PC monitor, an Asus monitor, PA2 something something. I forget the name of it. It should have low input lag though. Maybe one frame.
Yeah, I have one as well. Asus makes really great monitors. Do you play it rotated?
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, definitely a nice way to go. I was
Uh,
going to play it rotated, but if you stream it on PS4, the PS4 is too dumb to figure out that.
yeah, it'd be nice if I could play it on a bigger monitor though, because then you can see all the gadgets and stuff on the M2.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, that is a drawback of playing on rotated because you can't see the gadgets anymore.
Yeah, they still have a few of them at the top, but you don't get everything.
Yeah. So what do you think of the gadgets? We should talk about those.
Most of them seem like maybe kind of pointless, but they're still really cool. Like there's some like the airlocking one that shows how many chips you get and stuff from just doing airlocks. That's a really interesting one.
Yeah. I think another one that looked like it would be really helpful is the proximity gadget, right?
Yeah, that
So my experience with gadgets is there's a rank gadget in the Battle Garega port. That baby is super helpful.
yeah. Maho Daisakusen.
Yeah, I used that to figure out what my kind of strategies were for doing rank because it showed you it in real time.
Yeah, I could imagine that being really good for Garaga.
Yeah.
They carried that over to Maho Daisakusen as well.
Oh, did they? I haven't played that one.
It's not as useful there.
And Ketsui pretty much doesn't have rank, right?
I think it actually does, but it's like completely like you wouldn't even notice it. So
Right. Yeah, kind of like Dononpachi.
yeah.
Yeah, what do you think of that as a DOJ player? What are your thoughts on rank?
Mm, I guess it's kind of interesting, but like it's not necessary to make a game like really interesting for me. So just take it or leave it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. How I feel about rank is intellectually, I appreciate it, but then when I sit down and play shmups, and the shmups I play don't have it, I'm happy. And then I play like Garega and DOJ, and I appreciate it and everything, but a part of me is like,
Yeah, it makes just makes more stuff to learn.
yeah, yeah. I do like kind of like weird meta strategies and shmups, like intentionally suiciding your ships and stuff. But I kind of like the way DeathTiny does it, where it's like a clear, this gives you more score. Whereas, sometimes in Battle Garega, I'm like, should I suicide my ship or should I just wait for myself to make a mistake and use that as a suicide? So,
Yeah, the suicides in Destiny are, I guess, I kind of like Battle Backrate actually, but I never really played that game, so it seems similar to me though.
oh, do you think that's where maybe they got the idea?
Possibly.
Yeah, because you're saying it has like all these different mechanics thrown into Ketsui, which is a cool idea.
Yeah, it just seems like a love letter to cave games, maybe.
I could see that. Maybe that's why they chose Ketsui, just for DeathTiny mode.
Maybe that's why they made Death Tiny mode, because like for people who like regular Ketsui might not be appealing, but so they made a mode with like a bunch of other cave games.
Yeah, get everyone on board.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm really digging it. So, what do you think about Esperade coming out? Are you looking forward to that?
Yes, definitely. I was actually gonna
Yeah.
play that earlier this year, but now I'm definitely going to before the PS4 port comes out.
Are you gonna win a little flying guy for for the people?
If they run a contest, I'll probably try. Actually, I don't know because Esperade scoring isn't particularly great.
Yeah, with the milking. But my thinking is if they re-release it and they release like Death Mini mode, that it will remove the milking.
Yeah, they'll probably do something about that with whatever arrange mode they come up with.
Yeah, that's what I'm actually looking forward to the most because, like you said, yeah, I love Esperade, like playing it, and I was like, maybe I'll play this game for score, and then I watched some replays of it, and they're just milking bosses forever, and I'm like, oh god.
Yeah, it gets like I can appreciate the skill in it because it's like complete mastery, but it's just really tedious looking.
Yeah, and imagine grinding that for hours and hours. Like, imagine doing that section over and over. You're like, oh, this is so mind numbing.
Yeah, I can't. That's stuff like that's not for me.
Yeah, me neither. It's hard enough for me just to play like really difficult, sections, let alone ones that are really tedious. Yeah, I'm really glad they ended up announcing Esperade. My hope is that after Esperade is Dodonpachi. What do
Yeah,
you think the likelihood of that is?
I think they'll definitely do Dodonpachi eventually. Then they'll probably do Diojo as well, which
Yeah.
will, which I
Which
would
comes
be.
first? Your prediction. Diojo or DDP?
I think they would probably do the original Dodonpachi first because Diojo, like, if they just did Diojo, then people who play Diojo Black Label wouldn't be happy. So they'd basically have to do two games at the same time.
Yeah, like a Black Label Extra where you have both.
Yeah,
Yeah, that that game. I was trying to explain that game to my friend where it has many great points and then many, like the port itself, horrible points. So it's an interesting one.
the port is when people complain about the port, they just talk about like the load times and stuff, but it has a lot more wrong with it.
Yeah, like for instance, the level select is L busted.
Yeah, it's like the worst training mode ever conceived.
Yeah. I don't know what you do, but there is a way to like go into a stage with full power-ups.
Yeah, you just press the start button.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, instead of the A button. Like I don't even know why they would give you the option, but
Yeah, I was just like a monkey on a typewriter. Sometimes we get full power-ups by doing something, so I'm like hitting different buttons trying to figure out what it was. Yeah, that port. I could definitely see them M2 improving on that. Would you say too that there's less slowdown in the 360 port? It feels that way to me, but I'm not totally sure.
Well, on the 360 port, I've really only played White Label, and there is less slowdown on the 2-4 boss at max rank, which can be really annoying. But I
Hmm.
think the much bigger issue with the port is that it has some input lag, which makes an already really hard game even harder. So
Yeah, definitely.
that's not good.
Yeah. And a lot of the other 360 ports are a lot better about that, so you can't even really fault the hardware there. Well, awesome, man. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we head out?
I think you pretty much covered everything.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I was really, really looking forward to talking to you because you're killing Death Tiny mode, and I really wanted to learn more about what's going on there with the scoring and kind of how you figured out what you're doing.
Well, thanks for having me.